Welcome back to Old World Fanatics. It's Gomo here for the second episode of Old World Meta Weekly, where I cover what's been happening over the Old World in terms of tournament, competitive play. Not from a really, not that I'm the greatest tournament player, but it is nice to have a look around at some of the, not only the big tournaments that happen every week in this growing hobby, but also some of the smaller events, some of the other countries out there that might not get some of the representation that some of the bigger tournaments get, and just try to have a look at what's happening. Maybe pick up some of the interesting sort of results that you might not have expected, or look at the ones that I guess you would expect. For example, things like Cathay. Sorry, that's sort of what we do in these videos. We use Our World Rankings. If you haven't seen that, that's just a site that I developed initially for the Australian Masters, but now used by a number of countries for ranking the Masters, as well as its own ranking system worldwide. So you can have a look at all the different players who are ranking for their different factions worldwide, as well as the overall rankings, which, if we go back, I think we had a new leader the last couple of weeks. Usually it's Phil Carl, but right now Stephen Tull took the lead overall. But when you include online, Phil Carl's still number one there. No surprise there. So let's just jump in. And actually, I am going to try and bring the screen up. I had some feedback too last week that when I bring the army list up, they're a little bit small. I might actually adjust that to be a bit more of a full screen army list down the track. But at the moment, I'll try to remember to zoom in. Probably forget when I start talking. This usually only goes for 20 minutes or so, just a short one while you're doing some painting. Really, this is not only for you, but it's also for me. So please like, subscribe, all that stuff. But definitely comment if you see anything that I missed, or there'll be lots of questions when I look at certain matchups or results. You've probably got your ideas, or if you played in those events and you know what happened. Always happy, and I'm sure people watching this would be always happy to hear a little bit more info from that. So last week was actually interesting because I looked back at a whole month and compared it. Probably won't do that straight out of the bat for the first week in October. So I'm just going to look at the last 7 days or so, mainly. I don't have a massive agenda here. But yeah, I'm going to start off, unfortunately, because actually, interestingly, there was still 16 GTs and 40 RTTs this weekend, or last weekend, whichever way you look at it. But I think, if I remember right, the RTTs, a lot of them were quite small and stuff. So really, we had a fair few decent GTs as well, which are the 2-day 5-game plus events. So I might cover them first because there was, I think, 1, 2, 3. I think there's about 4 that I found interesting, that worth mentioning. Out of the 16 or so, obviously, once you start getting, if you haven't seen this site, it obviously tracks all the old world faction stats right back from the beginning, but and giving you faction performance and things. But obviously, when you cut it back to just the last 7 days, you can probably ignore a lot of the actual stats as such, because there's just not enough games played in a week with Old World at the moment. We're not 40k, unfortunately, but it is still interesting to look at things like faction tournament appearances. The last month, you really saw a lot of Dwarven Mountain holds at the top there, even though they weren't podium as much, and Beastmen and stuff were podium as well. But it's nice to see some orcs up there, and even Warriors of Chaos back to, usually Warriors are at the top all the time, but I noticed they dropped off last month. Maybe people jumping on Cathay, I don't know. We're still working through that. But again, don't look at these numbers over the top here, but obviously Vamps and Grand Cathay right at the top in terms of taking place, first places. If you actually cut back, just look at the actual factions and not all the arcane journals, like you collapse all the arcane journals in, orcs are starting to do not too bad with those small number of results there, which is pretty cool. What I did want to say, though, because they're an army after my heart, was Cathay. Cathay. Orcs and Goblins Troll Horde out of Canada. Now let's just go to latest results here. Was it this one? Yeah, Old World at the SKC. 15-man, 5-round event. Jordan McCarthy takes it 5-zip with the Troll Horde. And on top of that, second place was Minotaur Bloodherd. But if you actually look at the points, Jordan McCarthy just took it away. 84 points. The closest was 50. They must have potentially looked at wins here. It was probably ranked on wins as well, first, and then back to battle points potentially. That's why you're getting these, this empire above this empire result. But yeah, nice to see Troll Hordes. Hopefully you guys can see that. Taking not only a podium on a 2-dayer, but also, and yeah, only 15 players, but also undefeated, which is really cool. And this is type of list you start seeing, I think, with the Troll Horde. You used to see lots of Orc War Boys with them. But yeah, anyway, he's got the Troll Horde, the Troll Hag, just level 1 Troll Magic, obviously just to get big smarts for all the Stone Troll mobs to reroll the stupidity. Ogdraz is you see him in a lot of lists if you're taking the Troll Horde. And the normal Orc War Boss on a Wyvern, which is nice to see. And then 5 Stone Trolls, 5 River Trolls, and still a big angry unit of War Boys, because you do still need some hitting power, which is pretty cool. Interestingly, I think it was this one. If I just jump to BCP, look at the results. Don't actually pull the matchup results from Old World rankings from BCP, because you have to have a paid plan. So I don't want to totally screw them around. I believe did he play? He played the Empire. I thought it was okay. He played another Orc and Goblin right at the end there, and Empire as well. So I think just against Empire and Orcs and Goblins, I think the Troll Horde probably stood up to that with the number of regen saves it gets. Well, obviously with re-rolling regen. I think it probably ended up being pretty good in that sort of matchup, and the armies that were here. Now, the other thing about this tournament, I believe, when I looked at the pack, is it was one of those 2 days where they encouraged people to come, I think, even if it was for a day, and you just played one of the days. So I think that's why you see some of these other placings with just three games, 3 games, 3 games for the Cathay player. I'm not saying that was going to change anything, but at the same time, that probably helps weaker armies like Troll Horde and the Blood Herd not having to play, things like Cathay for over 2 days. But you never know. I'm not. Who knows? I'm not saying they wouldn't have still podiumed and got in there. The Blood Herd, again, good to see. So basically 2 monstrous infantry armies taking podium, which is just really cool. The Doom Bull, obviously just the the minuses to hit this guy, the Gore Bull, the Battlestone and Bearer, probably inside this big unit of Minotaurs, and then Chaff, and double Gorgon plus Shaggoth. So, you've got lots of behemoths to do some work here, but also this big, Death Star coming at you with a bit of chaff. So, yeah, pretty cool to see. I was, pretty happy to see those 2 up there, given they're probably, at least Minotaur, Bloodherd, one of the weaker armies out there for sure, unfortunately, just with the way things are. The other one, actually, I might just drop to the list because, comparing the stats just over a week probably isn't that useful. I'll leave the zoom in here. Just go to GT again, and I'll just flick it to last 7 days. So we looked at the Troll Horde. The other one that would have been interesting is the Michigan GT was played as well. And we had John Onto taking that with Tomb Kings. But the interesting thing was how close this is for at the top there. It was still pretty close. Actually, this wasn't the one I was talking about. Sorry for closeness. He took that fairly comfortably, I guess. But interesting, I think he lost to Jonah Schultz. I'm probably saying his name wrong in the final round, but I would imagine he was enough up. I think he was enough up that he probably, I'm guessing, again, correct me, John, if I'm wrong here, if you're watching this. It's one of those, I think it was an 11-9, was it, or something like that, loss at the final round to the second place player. But I'd imagine that's a little bit of also playing safe a little bit and not going as full ball as you probably did over the first few rounds. Potentially, let me just check. Might be lying on my bum there. Yeah. 2016, a 17, a 16, and then a 9-11 loss to the second place player. So well done with that. The Tomb King list, this was 2,500 points too, so bigger than. I mean, you do see 2,500, but obviously it's not as popular as the 2K. But I guess what I wanted to say, not so much that the points were. I'm not saying it was close, but what was close is the amount of 4-1s. So you had a lot of 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 3-1. So the wins are pretty cool all the way down to seventh place. You had a few 3-1 and 1 draws in there. But these Grand Cathay down here probably just wasn't able to pick up the points, which is interesting. Because obviously Cathay, as we know, I won't harp on Cathay too much, but it's one of those ones that is just taking a lot of people out at the moment. And what's he got? He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 Sky Lanterns and 3 Fire Rain rocket batteries, not the cannons, and a Sentinel in there. But yeah, obviously 4 balloons, and able to pick up 4-1. But obviously, just in terms of the hitting the last round 3, 4, 5, not picking up the points he needed, and lost big to the Wood Elf Army. Actually, Nicholas Schultz picked up well against him. Is that right? No, I'm looking at the wrong one here. Jeremiah Coates. God, I cannot read. John Onto. Okay, so the Tomb King player got him with a big win, a 16-4 against Cathay. So let's just go back and look at the Tomb King list in terms of what it would do against Cathay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is interesting a little bit. He's got. So basically, this Tomb King can have a crap ton of attacks, effectively, I think it is. So he's got the Tomb King. This guy gets the number of attacks, get extra attack per rank that you're fighting, I guess. So if you put him in the right block and throw him against the right unit, I guess you can get a few more attacks there. On top of that, I believe it's probably in the unit with the Necrotech and if you come down here, the Tomb Guard here, which have the icon of Sacred Eye. I'm only just saying that because the Necrotech has the Spell Eater axe, so I'm guessing that guy's definitely in here because that way you're getting the MR2, whereas the Skeleton Warriors already have MR1. These guys have shooting, so this is interesting. Like, at least people are starting to try and do what they can against the shooting, I guess, with, for example, Cathay, I guess, since they're -1 to hit. I mean, usually you wouldn't be shooting at skeletons, but I'm wondering if the volume of shots that Cathay can put out, you can probably still wipe through a unit of skeletons. So every bit helps, I'd imagine. Could be totally wrong on that one. And then his High Priest flying around. I don't mind this. I know people talk about that's pretty dangerous, but it's very maneuverable. You can really stay with the lone character protection. You could pretty much keep him fairly safe. And 2 heretic jars, however you say it. It's loaded up to either heal himself or at least sit behind those units and make sure that they get, they're not going to get shot off and whittled down in one go. Like, if you can't get him in one turn, he's going to bring them all back. So I don't mind those sort of builds. The Royal Herald's interesting on his chariot. So he's, 200 points, but he's basically a bit of a, I'd imagine, Biting Blade as well. So he does some magic attacks if he needs it. And then he's got War Banner as a BSB. So, he can go and try and crumble some of that crappy Scream units, as well as, if that's not your targets, you obviously you want to stay around those other blocks as well. And for those rerolls to leadership. So interesting as well. Talisman of Protection, 5 up. So he's just got straight 5 up all the time. Can't get rid of that. Oh, and he's regen 5 up. So he's pretty resilient for 210 points. Not a bad little unit and chess piece on that one. And then a bit of chaff that probably can be taken if you wanted to. The skeletons, the skeleton chariots, 2 units of 3 scorpions. I mean carrions. I love this carrion. It's giving the speed to catch things that you don't get it, plus going after things like baggage train. Is that right? Yeah, because you only need 5 unit strength, don't you? Oh, you got to hang around for that one, so probably not that as much potentially. But yeah, they've got 6 attacks on the charge. I think they've got 2 attacks each. They might have 3 attacks. They're pretty good. Maybe it's 2 wounds, 2 attacks. Correct me, I can't remember. I'll use them like once in Old World. I do like them. I think they're pretty cool. And then the Casket of Souls, obviously. He's got 6 Shapti in there as well. So hopefully taking balloons down. Casket of Souls. So I think, yeah, he probably matched up well with 2,500 points against the Cathay player, which probably won him the tournament at the end of the day, which is pretty cool. The high elf player took the Star Dragon as you would at 2,500. I think there's some other comp on here too, which was like 25%, well, 500 point character limit, even though it's 2,500. So just to try and limit it, which is pretty good. I believe they also had this player pack. I just want to check if they didn't allow, this one didn't have heavy comp, I don't think. So there's so many tournaments every week, it's hard to remember them off the top of your head when you just read it quickly. Was it these guys with the FAQ around? No, probably not. They probably can take more balloons than. It's just that a lot of people are comping them to 2 balloons. So sometimes it's interesting to see how Cathay are going if you can only take the 2 balloons. But my head can't see it. So I won't dwell on that one. But yeah, good result for Tomb Kings on that one. And Cathay's still getting a 4-1, even though it finished in 6th place. It's the win rate on Cathay is insane. I probably don't need to explain that to anyone, but yes. And then we also had LVO in the US as well, which is quite cool. So big, some big tournaments like Michigan GT, it's a well-known tournament. The numbers still need to come up. Let's get up there. We're pushing 40 for the LVO, but hopefully they can keep moving that up. And this is what you'd probably normally expect, where you end up with 2 Cathays right at the top. Not unsurprisingly. Now, I think the LVO did cap 25%, and restricting balloons did not. Yeah, okay. So you could only take 2 balloons, I think. So let's just have a look at this. Dragonfire Bomb on that guy. Sorry, the balloon on that. Oh, geez, what did I just press? Another Lord Magistrate with balloons. Did they cap it? Oh, sorry. I know what it is. They probably capped it. I think the LVO did, where if it's a character mount, it still counts for the slot it's in. So I guess it's capped at 3 balloons. If you're taking Lord Magistrate as your general. So slightly nerfing it. But not nerfing the Ring of Jet. Ring of Jet, wherever it is. Oh, not on that one. Ring of Jet. So yeah, I mean, just spamming that, and also the Grand Cannon Ogre loaders on that one as well. I mean, that's just doing all the heavy lifting, isn't it? The balloons and shooting these guys, and then just Ring of Jet. So I don't know what to do. Yeah, something probably needs to be done. I'm painting Cathay right now. I feel like I paint pretty quick, but I just got through a Beastman army, so I feel by the time I get to Grand Cathay and get it on the table and painted, there's no use me trying to aim for these type of lists, because I think they're going to be comped by then. The other one that came second is very similar, but looks like it only has 2 balloons. So one had 3 and 1, and the other one had 2 balloons and came second. I know I'm being very, very, very flippant with that, but it just seems that way. 3 cannons as well. And yeah, Kevin Morgan just dominated, not only 5-zipped, but also the battle points there, if that's what it was scored on. Definitely ran away with that one, which is very good. Cameron Bloom, though, with his, is this the one? This technically isn't the one I was thinking of. There's another one in a different list, but I mean, this is what you're seeing, this orc and goblin army popping up a lot lately as well. And I think it's to counter Cathay, obviously. And obviously coming third, obviously didn't beat Cathay, but probably it'd be interesting to see if any of them, because they drew. They didn't draw against each other, did they? But we're going to use BCP here. Yeah, they did. They did. Andrew Ninny and Cameron Bloom drew against each other. Okay, cool. That's good. I'm not always wrong, so that's cool. Yeah, but you're seeing this. So, lots of random movement up there with the giant cave squigs. Try to capture those, lock into those balloons a little bit as well. But also just the volume of shooting versus fanatics. So you can't ignore the shooting. You're going to get close, then you're going to hit with fanatics. And you can't really do anything about it, and you can't shoot the fanatics. So I guess, if your fanatics go well, you can probably do some damage. And in this case, he's got 12 of them, which is, huge, and only 182 points if you lose it. So this is the type of army that you sort of do think is good against Cathay. Obviously, also Ruby Ring, Wind Blast up here, Plague of Rust, and then obviously 3 bolt throwers. Probably has Orc Magic. Does he have Orc Magic? Oh, no, he's got Elements. We just talked about that, Colin. Squig Hoppers, again, random movement. Both. I don't know if they have baggage train, but I would imagine things like that are pretty cool to protect your baggage train as well. But also Mangler Squigs. Again, just random movement, shooting, Doom Diver, Goblin Rock. Those. I've got one right there. The balloon bases are so big. That you can probably really hit them with some of these things, which is pretty cool. So, it's not a Cathay killing army, but it definitely probably can hold its own a little bit, which obviously did there. So, yeah, good on those top 3 there. Really good result, and just tight in terms of the wins. Yeah, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, right down to 6th place. Yeah, so really tight play. It's funny, you're seeing Brett's up there still, but they just get knocked off a little bit by Grand Cathay, which is kind of funny. So they've been depegged a bit, ironically, but unfortunately in favor of probably an OP army at the moment. Now, the other one was in Poland. Where is Poland here? Which I thought was worth looking at. Sorry, I just totally went off that. Let's go back to Poland. Now, if anyone's listening and can understand me and they're in Poland, because I can't, my accent's probably ridiculous to listen to. This comes up on Champions Hub as a master, like event type. So I'm not sure if that meant this was their masters or not. So I sort of skimmed the event pack, but I wasn't 100% sure, because they have like 3 different levels on Champions Hub, which is sort of like a BCP, for those who don't know. And in this case, they had a couple of more comps on this one. So I believe VC and Tomb Kings couldn't do the regen of their unstable, so trying to bring them down. Cathay, I think it was comped at 2 balloons. And the Ring of Jet was not common. So probably things that you probably want to see, to be honest. I don't mind any of those 3 FAQ sort of changes to the game that did it. And in that case, you had a very tight finish for the last 2, which is just basically between white or black, cool name, and Zantel with a 401 and a 302 with just a point difference. Beastman taking it, though. And this is actually a grand army, not a wild herd, but still spamming Bray Shamans galore. So I'm wondering with this list, again, I'm not I mean, I'm a Beastman player, but I'm still learning how to play them as well. The Ruby Ring of Ruin Elementalism on a level 3, and then the Hagtree Fetish Elementalism on a level 4. So really trying to, again, hopefully more magic missiles, as well as, what's it called? Earthen Ramparts, Plague Rust, all that sort of stuff. Well, probably not Plague of Rust as much, although it is still useful. Because he does have some shooting and things like that. But obviously Voltide. Now this he do has 2 level 1s with Demonology. I don't know if that's just default, or he does want the signature spell of Demonology, which wouldn't be a wrong result to have something that is a little bit more guaranteed to have X number of strength 4 hits and stuff. Give you that option, but I don't know if as someone people who play Beastman more, tell me if you'd ever take, I guess, the summoning over Voltide. That's, I guess, I'm still learning if that's an option for my army. He does have a level 1 with the Gore-Tooth, so took Primal Magic, which grabs the signature spell, and that's the Jagged Dagger. So this guy is going near some Ungals to slaughter them, I guess. And really trying to get that one off. It is a remains in play template that lowers the leadership by 1, which probably isn't a huge thing with this, although he does have 2 terror causes here. But I think it's more the bubble of difficult terrain. Well, it's difficult terrain, dangerous terrain if you're in the template, but I think it's 6 or 12 inches around the template. So you're making this big area where if you try to charge through it, you're low dice, -1 movement as well. So I guess really like avoidant, can't get to me type list. And if you do, I've got the Gore Herd here trying to sit on and objectives and things like that. But the rest of this stuff is just going to try and just make you a big mess while I just voltage off the board. It's probably something like that. And then obviously the hanging around the Herdstone, keeping that, and obviously the giant chaos spawns doing what they do. So I'd still think it's probably not a point and click army. There's a lot of nuance there and making sure you're getting the, because some of those magic missiles are low range and all that. But yeah, really well done to win that. And the Poles are obviously good at their game. This is probably the one I was talking about, but it's pretty much like the other one we just saw. Whoa. And I've forgotten. Is that zoomed in enough? I hope, guys. Sorry. But yeah, same, very similar thing where you've got Elementalism Wizards, Idol of Gork for his level 3, Battle Standard Bearer, 2 Cave Squigs, level 1 Illusions, so going for -1, like Glittering Robes on the units if you get in combat with them. An Orc Weird Knob with Elementalism level 4 with Lordfamir, so really being able to pick those spells that you want. This guy's actually got 14 Fanatics, so for anti-Cathay, as well as 3 Bolt Throwers, 2 Doom Divers, 2 Rock Lobbers, all in 2,000 points. So, yeah, pretty good there. I don't know if Cathay... Yeah, the only Cathay was down here. So I'm assuming... I don't know, again, playing for those armies, but... if they're not there, they're not there. Oh, sorry, there's a Green Cathay right there, and I was not looking at it. So let's see. Did they end up? They would have played, wouldn't they? Let's have a look. Round 5, he played the Vampire Counts. To win it, Grand Cathay, the Orc and Goblin, the Orc and Goblin player did beat the Grand Cathay player by 1, which is a good result for what we were just saying before in the other tournament, that it's that probably a tough list to play against. Again, not something that the Orcs aren't going to blow them off the table, but they're also going to get blown off the table. And yeah, proved to probably work for Xantel there, which good result. So that's pretty cool. Brutal Orc and Goblin list though, in terms of just the volume of bloody fanatics and stuff that you have to wade through. On terms of one dayers, probably the most exciting, and I probably should just leave this. I know Rob does his weekly meta videos, although he usually only sticks to GT, so he'll probably do a better job of talking through them than what I just did. But he ran his foray event this week, which is cool. So sometimes it's cool just to look at smaller armies. So let's just have a look at that one. Sorry. 1,000 points. That's less than 1,000, Colin, because it's 500 points. So it'd be really interesting to. I haven't played Warhammer at that low level, and then I thought what was interesting with this. So this was 4 games over 1 day, 500 points, 4 rounds. Was just skimming through the top few sort of undefeated and 3 1s. Just the type of lists you can still get in 500 points, which is really interesting. So the winner was Bretonnia Exiles, Matt Howley, with 2 Outcast Wizards and a Ruby Ring. Demonology, a lot of magic missiles there, which is pretty cool. 6 Mounted Yeomen, 11 Peasant Bowmen, 5 Knights of the Realm. So, you got, I guess, 1 unit to do some hammering and the others moving around while you shoot things off the board. So, but for 500 points, pretty cool. The Ogre Kingdoms, you almost get a Death Star, not a big Death Star, but a Gut Star Bruiser with 3 Iron Guts, or put him on the 4 Iron Guts. I think Monstrous Infantry and that level would still be annoying to get through. You just don't have the volume of shots to get them down before they get into combat with you, and you still got these 20. I mean, how do you get rid of 20 figures for 45 points in a 500-point game? So I think there's some interesting meta play at this lower level, and then Chaos can still throw a unit of 10 Chaos Warriors with the Aspiring Champion there, 5 Chaos Knights, and a Dragon Ogre. So just I don't know, just interesting to see it at this low level. 2 Night Goblins, 4 Fanatics, 40 Night Goblins effectively. Mangler Squigs, 6 Goblin Squig Hoppers, and then a couple of big bosses in there as well with the Charm Shield. Again, if you roll well with the Night Goblin Fanatics, you can do some damage. So, 500 points. It makes me definitely keen to get my hands on the Cetra Fury book and see how the battle match, is it called, to 500 to 750. And maybe aim for that with Cathay as sort of like a first 750 points or something, and have a game with that, because it looks pretty interesting. Then we had, that's pretty much, did I have anything? Yeah, not really. I mean, the only other thing was, let's see if I can bring this one up. It's probably around that. I mean, I already sort of touched on it there. When Grand Cathay gets comped with 2 balloons, what I haven't seen in the comps, at least from this couple of weeks, is people are usually comping the balloons and then potentially the Ring of Jet. And then it's pretty hit and miss whether or not the FAQ is getting rid of the stacking of the Grand Cannons. If it doesn't, this is generally what you start seeing still, where you end up with, the double Shigengan Lords, very popular, but you'll get 3 Grand Cannons on there if you've comped the Sky Lanterns out. So, and they still then do very well. So it's just an interesting, the story of Cathay, I guess, is it probably needs some curbing, but I don't even know. Do you bring all that back? Do you're not stacked? Do you get rid of the Ring of Jet? Do you comp down the balloons? And are they, does that then take too much out of it? I don't know. It certainly doesn't look like it will, but just interesting. When you get into these 3 rounders too, the other thing I've seen, again, you don't see it in this week as such, but I think you see it when you look at a longer time frame, is that Grand Cathay dominates those GTs 1 day as you have a chance a little bit, because sometimes you either miss them or it just feels like over a shorter time, so for example, this is a good example here where the Tomb King player actually lost to the Grand Cathay player in round, I think it was the last round or the second round. I can't remember. I could go into it. But just because of the list here, he's got the standard, not standard, but he's got the double Bone Giant, big block of skeletons, and then the double Necrosphinx. So he's got 4 behemoths, which, I know 1.5 has nerfed dragons and brought up infantry, but this Tomb King list that you see with the double dragon, double Necrosphinx, you see it with the Chaos sometimes with their double dragon lists, that they can still do some, they can still put some hurt on. So if you can do that and win big, then you can still get a chance, especially in the 3 games where you get to, if you stomp someone in the first round or so, let's just see what it was. See if I'm speaking out of my ass here. It can shoot you up. So who won? I can't pronounce their names. I'll butcher their names. I apologize. So he 20 zipped Roman on the Empire. Now, where was Roman? Where did Roman finish? He was sort of middle of the pack there. Let's just see. He had to drop out too, unfortunately. Hopefully he didn't get destroyed. Hopefully his hobby didn't get destroyed by Mizu. And then in round 2, Mizu went on to do at a 19-1 against the Wood Elf Realms Piotr. Oh, how do you say that? I am butchering people's names. I apologize. I thought that said Philip. I cannot pronounce that. So he's got the Glade Lord, Glade Riders, Sisters Lord, Wild Riders. Potentially that unit of Skellies just can't get taken off, and then the Behemoths can do what they need to do, getting around and getting these guys. The True Flight Arrows probably not going to do much against those Behemoths, really. So obviously did a big win against him, which is cool, but did lose in round 3, I believe, if I remember right, to Cathay 12-8. And I'm just thinking, again, I haven't played Tomb Kings in the Grand Cathay yet, but I would assume that with all that shooting, with 3 cannons and he's only got the 2. Obviously, he's got the 2 Skylands, not the characters. But these guys can still hurt Necrosphinxes and really put the wounds on some the dragons to make them a lot more defensive. So the Tomb King player then has to play more defensive, and I think he would have potentially got the win there, which is pretty good for him. But having said that, like I was saying, I feel like in a 3-game tournament, if you win big enough outside of that, you can sort of, depending on how the tournament's scored, obviously, you still have a chance, which you do see. But when you get a 5-game, it's hard to do that over 5 games, I guess, especially if there's more Cathay. So I don't know. I'm probably just crapping on there, but I feel like that's the story a little bit there. If you want to avoid Cathay, maybe don't get a GTs as they get more popular. If they don't get comped, they're going to get comped. People are just going to have to. But that was not 20 minutes. That was 30-something. 5 minutes. So sorry about that. But that was an interesting week. I still think there was some cool results. We had Troll Horde podium actually getting a gold. Minotaur Bloodherd was up there. And then obviously people taking it to Cathay with some Orcs and Goblins, which is pretty cool. But still, obviously, they're still up there. So it'd be interesting to see how the October fleshes out with some more big tournaments on the way. But yeah, that was a good result for the first weekend of October, and more games to come, I guess. So hope you enjoyed my rambling through the meta for the week. Please, leave your comments. What did you think about some of those games, those results, if you were playing in them, if you know the people playing in them? Oh, and I totally missed. I'm so sorry. I feel really bad for my Australian people. We had Moab as well. I totally didn't even include them. So it was one of our other large five gamer. I'll just quickly say that. With Akhtar, the food monster, going 5-zip, and Techamanda, who's also was right up there with Vampires last year as well. One of the better players, definitely in Australia, with the Vamps. As you can see, Vamps. Unfortunately, for Techamanda, Akhtar's picked him up. Akhtar seems to jump between Tomb Kings and Vamps a bit, and he's definitely leaning on the Vamps at the moment, given how good they are. And he's so good at just getting capped out scores, which he did there. So now, if you are interested for the Australian Season 2 Masters ranking, that catapults Akhtar up to first place currently, with Matt Willis doing very well. He's Dark Elves. Again, another faction specialist, has just played Dark Elves, doing really well there. Danny was awesome on Empire and Bretonian at the top there, but obviously waiting for the next Victorian tournament, I suppose, before he gets another game in. But yeah, Akhtar, the Vamps are the ones to beat up there at the moment, I would imagine. Yeah, so yeah, another good result for Akhtar and Moab. So if you want to look at those results as well, definitely jump over to Old World Rankings. So yeah, sorry guys from my homeland. There was so much to talk about. And at the time, Moab was not syncing this afternoon when I was looking through the results. So it has now, and it's all there if you want to look at those lists. So big thank you to all the players who play Old World. It definitely keeps this interesting. And yeah, I'll see you next week for another Old World Meta Weekly. Cheers. Bye.